Hi, I'm Dr. David Dobson. Welcome to Conversations. Today, my guest is Maria Ahmad. Maria is a PhD researcher at Aarhus University, where she's researching how digital landscapes and influential culture are shaping sustainable food choices. In our conversation today, we will discuss how social media influencers change the way we eat. Maria, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, David. It's such an honor to talk with you about this. Like, this game is going on social media. So, I think so. We're going to have a very productive talk.
To start us off, Maria, what specifically about the food sector inspired you to pursue a PhD?
I would say that I am a little bit foodie person and I love to cook. So when I start, I'd love to try different cuisines and everything. So when I try to different kind of a food and aspect, so it made me realize is that food is not just about nutrition. It's about that how we communicate ourselves. It's also linked with our identity, our health, how we think about our around the world and everything, about sustainability and everything. So it made me realize is that the food is something more than that. So it's also represent that what are our habits, what our trust, what is convenient for us, and how much we are experts in cooking and everything, and how we can represent ourselves. So I think so we really need to understand is that the food sector is not about just an eating. It's about the whole your personality, your persona, how you introduce yourself, how you present in a overall in your society. So yeah, that's I think so that is what motivate me. But again, yeah, I love to cook, so let's see. Yeah, that's going, it's align time.
Wonderful. As you began that research, Maria, when did you realize that the way we talk about plant-based food is just as important as the food itself?
I mean, should I say that the first paper I read about that made me realize that okay, so the thing we are watching on on around our social
Mhm,
media and our
mhm,
media and what we are eating, that we really need to communicate is that what we are eating and what is actually products are. So for example, product may be very sustainable and technically strong, but people do not understand it, and maybe if they do not know how to use it, how they can trust it, so that sustainability and technically strong may be useless for them. So I think so we really need to start revising that the simple food aspect, maybe the also not for I would not say that simple, but I will say is that not about the simple, but overall we need to reshape that how we are defining overall our products and everything. And I
mhm,
think so this is very especially true is because the plant based food sector is depends upon your internal motives. Are you animal welfare activist? Are you working on your food benefits and everything? So we really need to provide reassurance to the consumer is that okay, so the something we are like you are eating is also good for yourself, and it also good for your environment and society and everything. So I think so it's a really important that now I think so we should start discussing about it is that how what are we talking every day about the food and everything. So it's a really like what are we eating and what
yeah,
are we communicating, so there needs to be some alignment between it.
right. Yeah. Social media influencers clearly play a role in how we eat. But as you noted, not all voices are equal. You compare macro and micro influencers in your research. In your experience, Maria, which of these group is actually moving the needle on consumer behavior?
I mean, in my research, as I told you, it is that the macro influencers generate more active and passive engagement than
Mhm,
micro influencer. So that leaves a very big alignment. Is like maybe insight is that the large following does matter on social media. If
mhm,
someone, if some influencers, or maybe some person who have a large following, so people will start following them. It
mhm,
is behind the mechanical. Is that I just talked before? Is
mhm,
that the plant-based food are linked with your internal motives. So
mhm,
if person cannot be more, so that
mhm,
is like large following is an indirect way to show person that person is a credible. So a person has a less following, so it shows that it doesn't have a lot of credibility. I'm not saying as a generalizing
mm,
aspect,
mm,
but more like I have seen from on social media. But I would not personally say is that, again, it not be a very generalized. Maybe right now macro influencer have a more influence and maybe they are increasing more, but we cannot say in the future maybe micro would be having more influence. So
mm,
it's more like maybe it's a very recommendation for the brand, but if they are looking for some, because again right now we need more awareness. So if an influencer have more following, more visibility, so indirectly they can help us to create more awareness about the plant-based food system. So it's more like a trade-off system, so we gain and trade it. So
mm.
right now again, macro influencer rocks right now in a food system, so let's see how it will goes in the future.
Uh, to understand that impact, you use lexicon-based sentiment analysis to study thousands of Instagram comments. Beyond the numbers, what did you actually learn about the way people feel about these food transitions?
I mean, when I start a lexicon based approach is because again it's a linguistic approach.
Mm,
So when I try to input the keywords and everything, most of the time the researcher are like a people who try to translate those words into English, then they run a software. But I didn't do it. The reason is that every country has their own expressions to express their food,
mhm,
like there could be a different form. So if I try to have a more similarity in one thing, it could be a much more difficult. So what I have seen is that when I try to extract the exact instruction what are they saying, is that again the word of way of expressions and everything, it shows that what are they thinking about the product. And again, I would not be very like a very confirmed about it, is because again it's in the end it's a software. So you can, maybe someone is sarcastic and you're like, oh my god, it's a correct one, but it's not. So I would not say that, but
yeah,
again the communication in this is that the conversation
mm,
are going on, some
mm,
are becoming a more activistic and some are becoming less. So it's
mm,
depend upon the curiosity, how much they are curious about this
mm,
plant based, and
mm,
how much they are fighting against it. Because now we have a two teams right now, one is fighting against it and one is motivating, and
right,
I love that war on that social
yeah,
media when I saw all the search. So again, it's all about that. That is why I think so it's the communication needs to be having a more like, it has to be a combination of more
mm,
information
mm,
and also emotional,
mm,
because we cannot be a much more like extreme of information, but
mm,
we can ignore people's emotions and sensitivity when it
mm,
comes to the food. So that is why it's a very kind of a very sensitive sector, is that
yeah,
we should not be having a more informative, but rather than we also have to think about how they feel sensitive. Because I am so sorry if there is Italian is watching, so I would not be, I mean, I don't want to mess with their food. So for example, if they see that we mess with their food, so they become very dramatic. But again, I'm
yeah,
sorry, it's not a generalized. I also
yeah,
hate to someone mess with my recipe. So
yeah,
let's see.
yeah. It's a very
Yeah,
sensitive topic. Food is very
yeah,
sensitive, very personal for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Maria, moving from what people say to what they actually do, you have mentioned that a like is very different from a share. From your data, what are the key digital behaviors that are the strongest predictors for a change in a person's grocery habits?
I mean, I would be very honest is that my data shows that what was my purpose is to show
Mm,
that how much engaging we are doing on
mm,
plant-based food sector.
mm,
But right now there are two perspectives about it. How
mm,
we are engaging in,
mm,
how much they are engaged on it,
mm,
and how much it is leads towards purchase attention, then actual purchasing towards a shopping behavior and everything.
mm,
For example, I have seen the comments and the likes and everything on a
mm,
certain post, and I
mm,
have seen a lot of people were asking about the product, where to buy and everything.
mm,
But whether they go over there and buy it, this is not the data I have collected, and I think so
mm,
this is the data we can't see it. But again, it's like right now it's a very kind of a positive way to show that people are taking interest. Like for example, if they know on social media what is going on, or maybe they can just see on a shopping grocery center, they see a one product and now they can easily go and search on it. So
mm,
maybe the next time they will see, okay, this is the product, maybe I can buy it, maybe I can cook it, it will be not be worse cooking like I do before, so it will be much more easy. So again, I would not be say is that the shopping behavior is a bigger one, but again, it's a very different topic, which is, I think so, I'm going to do it in the next one. But the simply say will answer in this question is that online engagement doesn't really mean is that you, the person, a consumer, are actually going and buying it,
mm,
because your awareness is something else, your attention is something else, your purchasing is something else, and your repeat purchasing is also something else. So
mm,
yeah, so
mm.
it's depends upon how you shape it.
Right. Maria, your plant-based ingredients for egg replacement study, better known as the PEER project, covers Denmark, Spain, the United Kingdom, and Italy. Did you observe any cultural differences in consumer acceptance or the way digital communication influences plant-based egg alternatives across these four markets?
I mean, this question is more like, again, when we see in a very general way, I think so.
Mm,
You also know is that
mm,
when it comes to the cross country culture differences and everything, it really
mm,
does matter. It does
mm,
affect your data, it affects every kind of behavior and effects. But the question arise is that where it really hits you, whether
mm,
they hits on their motives,
mm,
are their habits and everything. So I'm not, and this answer leads towards my both insight. First,
mm,
I have data from social media and the discussion from an expert. So
mm,
I was talking from one expert who was saying that in a USA, uh, people are moving toward egg replacer because of their health conscious and have their food allergy, and they have certain viruses that has been occurred last
mm,
year, so like 2 3 years ago, so
mm,
that made them switch. But that leads towards the UK or France, they have different perspective because they are thinking about eco conscious and everything.
mm,
So my answer would be very broadly, and I would very carefully say is that yes, the cross country differences does matter,
mm,
but there are a certain alignment among different country, because for example in Europe country they have a certain motives, maybe from the government, from the researchers, from overall their guidelines and everything in terms of dietary and everything. So
mm,
I would say is that again we need to see is that how we, I would not be overclaim it, but I would not also be underclaim it, is that again, so it depends upon varies that how much product availability we have, and how much, like how much they are willing to pay for this kind of alternative, how they have open like, oh, now today I'm gonna eat the egg replacer, not I'm gonna buy the hand product. So yeah, so it depends upon their how much they are willing to
yeah,
try to
yeah,
need have experiments and
yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Maria, you recently bridged marketing data with sensory science at your department. What happens when the sentiment on social media is positive, but the sensory experience in the kitchen does not match?
I mean, this is, I think so. This is a where like a very serious question arises and
Mm,
the challenges arises is
mm,
because again, what, because marketing is just on a front,
mm,
and the kitchen is basically where
mm,
our product actually work.
mm,
So it's really like it's not about that how we communicate the product, it's about how they are actually perform it. I mean, it's for your example too, we have seen a lot of brands and products and everything, even from the picture outside, and when you
mm,
open the ice cream, it will not be a beer, but it will be like a panda will be outside of that ice cream. So it
yeah,
really like even the visual really affect on your mind. So
yeah,
again, the taste, your performance and
yeah,
everything really does matter,
mm,
because in the end we really need to integrate these kind of products into the actual cooking and baking. So when
mm,
I was talking, one of the biggest insight was from the expert is that quality does matter.
mm,
So it's the sensory experience,
mm, mm,
the egg is a stand alone product.
yeah,
Like you see the egg, the white and the yolk, so
yeah,
it will see that the white yolk, it has this feeling, it has that
yeah,
texture.
mm,
And again, if you add into the sponge cake and pound cake, it should be taste like the actual cake we wanted to. Because why we want to eat cake? It's for the pleasure, right? We eat
Right.
the cake because we
Yeah.
have to celebrate and we have to
Yeah.
eat the cake.
Yeah.
So but if it's not does the same sensory experience, then does it really matter that
Mm.
what are we doing, what are we
Mm.
communicating, and why we are
Yeah.
investing? So in
Yeah.
the end, it's all depend upon how we can easily integrate these products into the everyday life. So
Mm.
again, in the my experience, yes, sensory does matter. So I mean, in my experience, I would not see someone is like having something different. I was like, what is this? And what I am eating it, and this like a beanie experience, like which we have seen a consumer.
Yeah.
So I think so we should not be promised what we
Mm.
have, but
Mm.
rather than we can present what we
Mm.
can do and
Mm.
what this product can
Mm.
also do in
Mm.
your kitchen. So
Mm.
there is a very big, expectations and the
Mm.
reality.
Mm.
And we are struggling with it.
Yeah. 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 So, Maria, following up on that gap, the peer project aims to reduce the carbon footprint of baked goods significantly. You having worked directly with ingredients like aquafaba, which is a chickpea water, or
Yeah.
legume proteins in a bakery setting, what is the biggest functional surprise you have encountered that marketers really need to understand?
I mean, this is a very like a technical question. It's a very
Mm,
good that you have arises. Is
mm,
again I talk about is that egg is a very stand-alone
mm,
ingredient, but
mm,
it has such a multiple complexity. For example,
mm.
if you have any experience in a baking, if someone is listening right now, they have experience on it. So they also know is that when you try to open that oven, so really want a proper final cake.
Yeah,
But again, this egg really works on your moisture, your
yeah.
structure, your
Mm,
binding, how much it works on it.
mm,
So our the main aspect is that we should not be just focusing on the sustainability and everything, how this product can actually can happen in the baking and everything. So
yeah,
like people really needs to know and they really need to understand that this product can actually work. For example,
mm,
I talk with one of my experts opinion. I mean, why I'm saying again, because again they are more experts than me.
yeah.
So in my experience, so they also say that people want egg replacer who has a more shelf life. For
Mm,
example,
mm,
they can use it because
mm,
egg is a product that has a very less egg life
mm,
and
mm,
shelf life and
yeah.
everything. So again, and the other thing is that if we are targeting baking industry, baking owners and everything, so they really wanted to know that what they are actually making those products. If they starting using the replacers and everything, will they have the same taste and everything, or will they have a different experience? Maybe they have to like just present, oh, this is the same croissant we have and this is the same similar things. So they really need to also identify it. So
Yeah.
again, in terms of functionality, I think so people we really need to explain them
Mm,
what this can do, what this
mm,
can do. For example, if you have an egg replacer who has a very like everything is included, you just in a bottle and you
mm.
just pour on a pan and it become a pancake.
Yeah.
So will that pancake has the same experience, or it's something like you just like, okay, I just spent how much dollars on it and I don't know, I am just eating because I have to show the world that I have become sustainable. So it's a very tricky question.
Yeah.
So I think so the message in that sense is that we really need to be careful is that will this product will actually work in realistic way, the like in that sense is that it's not just show very idealistic life and everything, but rather than more practical.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm saying so much, but it's a, it's a fact.
No, that's true. Uh,
Yeah.
Social media often demand simplicity and entertainment. Maria, you have asked if researchers now need to be more entertaining to be heard. How do you balance scientific nuance with the attention logic of Instagram, especially when addressing the spread of misinformation?
I mean, this question is very stuck with me for the last time I attended this certain conference and we have this expert discussion is that do now as being as a researcher and expert, do we have to create an Instagram account, something like this and become, we need to have a more entertaining message so that we can simply say what we have and what we convey. But
Yeah.
again, one of the question is that now the influencer, maybe I would not say simply like influencer, that now we have so much information,
Mm,
maybe through AI, through social media, in everyday life, in
mm,
media. So like we don't know what is right and what is wrong. Again, my answer is also is that again we don't have to becoming a very entertaining. I mean, I don't want a video behind a music is going on. I was saying, okay, now we have egg replacer. So that would be a much more dramatic. I don't know whether my seniors colleague will like this or maybe colleague, but maybe I will try in the future. So, but the question arises that how we are communicating and which people we are using to target them. And
mm,
this answer is also leads towards is that again we really need to have a clear platform. That is we suggest is that we start working with the government, with different social media anchors, maybe a cook chef, so that they can help us to communicate. Again, we are made like a behind the soldier team people. So we are like we are telling them this is what we can do. But one of the problem is that this is a very tricky thing is that once
mm,
the misinformation spread, it's
mm.
becoming a very difficult to not just delete that, but also re-educated it.
Yeah.
So for example, one of the experience I have faced on social media when I was working is that consumers are also becoming expert on something. Maybe if you have also seen that there is some Instagram, maybe YouTube channel, and some videos uploaded and people are becoming showing they just read some random
Mhm,
experiment, something like this, which they
mm,
don't know what is a critical thing, and
mm,
then they start commenting on it. and
mm,
and it is very surprising is that now we need to focus is that how
mm.
one consumer is engaging another consumer. For
Yeah.
example, right now if you comment on something and I was like, no, he says something wrong, I have to show that I am more expert, so that you comment on it,
Yeah.
and then there is like serious start. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the person, maybe the third person who is like reading it and maybe have a different perception.
Mm,
So again, we really need to have a certain platform visibility where we screen out this information.
mm,
But again, it's a very long way, and
mm,
now the AI is here, so we
mm.
don't know what will gonna happen. So we try our best to find more realistic people,
Yeah.
so they can tell us that
Yeah.
eat this thing, not this one. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely challenging situation. Maria, you have noted that the plant-based market is not just for vegans. There is still a massive untapped audience looking for the right information. Based on your research, who is this sleeping giant, um, the specific demographic that is most likely to be engaged by the right communication to try plant-based alternatives?
I mean, I think so. This is the right time that I should, introduce that group, maybe, uncover that hidden people who are among us, including me. I think so. That vegan is just one sectors and everything. I think so.
Yeah,
The sleeping giant,
yeah.
who are maybe also you, me, and maybe a lot of people who are
Mm,
flexitarians and
mm,
experience seekers people,
mm,
who just go walk in a grocery store and they say like, okay, this is on a discount, it has a certain convenience, how
mm,
about just buy it.
yeah,
So
try.
like these are the people who basically, one of the beauty of that is that they are open to try alternatives, but they are not fully committed. For example,
Mm,
if they
mm,
find a discount on a meat, they
mm,
would rather just select the meat, but rather than go on a grocery.
mm,
But again, they know what is environmental, what is health,
mm,
what is sustainable eating and
mm,
everything. But they just like they are maybe driven by the price,
mm,
convenience, and affordability, and maybe
mm,
usability too.
mhm,
For example, if someone who is living alone and who is busy in their life and everything, so maybe he go or she goes to the
mm,
grocery store and they can find ready to made something,
mm,
so they would rather just buy that and cooked here, or maybe they just eat that. So they are just making their life easy. So
mm.
I would say is that these people are very easy to target, but if you just show them. But
Yeah.
again, one
Mm,
of the tricky thing is that they need clarity and
mm,
confidence on their cooking skills,
mm.
and clarity through the process, is
Yeah.
that if they buy something,
Yeah.
they can cook it and they can
Mm,
live on it, and that fits on their lifestyle too. And if they become consistent about it, maybe they have a longer
mm,
term repeat purchase,
yeah,
because again that products make their life easy, so they're
mm,
finding their flexibility in their life. So yeah,
mm,
so flexitarians are the giants who are sleeping, who are
mm,
under among us,
mm,
including me, including you. So the next time if you go to the shopping and you see someone youngster around discount, so you say, okay, that is the flexitarian she was Maria was talking about. So so yeah.
Good observation, Maria. Uh, if we can successfully reach that untapped market you just mentioned, the entire landscape of our grocery stores will shift. Maria, looking ahead, how will the egg and dairy aisles look differently in the grocery stores 10 years from now?
I mean, I would not say that 10 years right now, you can also see a lot of this, the variety of the products.
Mm,
Maybe, especially, I heard this expert from dairy products, and even from my experience, if you
mm,
go to the grocery sector, you see a lot of variance when it comes to the dairy products, like based on consumer preferences. If you go to the any kind of a stores and everything, cafes and everything, they also have a lot of variety in everything. So
mm,
like if you wanted some cappuccino and different kind of a milk and everything, they have a variety.
mm,
So it's made you sense is that people know, people have awareness, and it becoming a very normalized. So maybe right now too, and maybe in a 10 year, people will not make feel difference is that this is a white egg yolk, this is the egg replacer, this is the oat milk, this is almond milk, and this is the bee pia's milk and everything. Because for them it has become normalized, and
mm,
maybe we also are becoming one of them to just choose that. Because in the slowly you have seen on your own dining table is that people now
mm,
have a different preferences when it comes to food. Like
mm,
I prefer to drink almond milk,
mm,
but my mother, she preferred to have a goat milk.
mm,
So we have now have a more variety on our fridge and everything.
mm,
So this, in other words, I would say that it, maybe I would not say that in the future we can consider this as a very niche and very, like, very
mm,
specific market, but rather than it has a very certain separate categories where people will just go, not just because they are eco conscious or maybe they have food allergy, but maybe they maybe start liking the taste, the quality, or performance.
mm,
So I think so this is becoming, I mean, I would not say that now the plant based food is an emerging thing,
mm,
because it has already has been emerged,
mm,
and now people are accepting it,
mm,
and in Europe and
mm,
everywhere, and maybe in the future it will not be feel like, maybe feel like a very alien word, or maybe
mm,
not associated with some with only vegans one, but
mm,
rather than as a normal lifestyle and everything.
mm, sounds very promising. For the companies listening today who want to be a part of that future, what is the first step they should take to bridge the gap between digital sentiment and real world behavior?
I mean, from what I have experienced is that we really need to like have a certain message is that just sustainability message doesn't work
Mhm,
alone. It
mhm,
will not sell the product.
mhm,
So if you are just targeting that, if you're putting more certifications on the product, but that doesn't mean that it will sell your product. I mean, it should also align what other aspect consumer matters. Again, I talk, it really matter is that how they taste, how they function, how they perform, and how they have a longer effect on their health too.
mhm,
Because again, we have a certain problem nowadays, just we were talking is that needs to be entertained and everything,
mhm,
but
mhm,
the question arises that are we becoming too much greenwashing about
mhm,
all the sustainability and everything?
mhm,
Are we just like, okay, so like this what I am doing, is it good for me?
mhm,
Again, good for my environment, good
mhm,
for that cute mini goat and the cow who's to live in farm. So
mhm,
are we protecting exactly that animal or not? So
mhm,
that needs to be a very clear understanding.
mhm,
And again, one of the thing maybe I should not say right now. So so but the question is that do we really need to find extremely similarity, like you have to target exact the familiarity of the actual meat with the vegan meat and everything. I would say simply vegan meat for the audience and everything. Like, how about just have a distant like personality and persona of that brand or that like feed. For example, you we have tried so many different version of the fish. So are we saying that they have not performing the same? No, they can have the distance personality and their brands, their message, their taste personality. Because when you try to buy, are you trying to sell that product based on having extremely familiarity? Are you claiming to have the exact same thing? It will not gonna happen. Because again, we eat egg meat whole our life, we know what it will taste like.
Yeah.
So if you try to sell that based on it, I think so it's gonna be very difficult. So I think so if the and I would personally say that if your product as a company, if they actually work, people gonna buy it. So you don't have to have so much extreme comparison on it to just to sell or make consumer to adopt that product. So this is, I think so that is my last. It's a very strong component, but I would but still yeah.
No, great advice, Maria. Thank you for that. Uh, Maria, if an individual listener is inspired by your research and wants to eat more sustainably, what is a practical starting point they can implement today?
I mean, I would suggest is to just when you just go for eating, just look at your plate and you
Mm,
see the division of your plate. I would say is that right now is that sustainable eating, a plant-based food system is not about ignoring the meat and everything.
mm,
It's about overall your portfolio of what you're eating. It includes drinking water,
mhm,
it includes how much bread wheat you are eating and everything, how many fat vegetable oil, your fat free oils you are using in your products, how many fruits vegetable which nuts and everything. So I would not say is that you just like, I would not say like, oh, should start skipping the meal. I would say that just look at your plate and have a shape out according to your personality and your health and everything. Like maybe start with something more. Maybe you will, from one day you will add, okay, maybe today I will add one apple and maybe I will add some nuts with it. So the slowly you will,
mm,
you will revise it that what you are eating and everything. I talk with
mm,
a nutrition in my
mm,
expert and she also mentioned is that this question is very extremely personal one.
mm,
And again,
mm,
it helps link with your health and your what are your priority when it comes to your life and which age cycle you are in. For example, maybe right now, let's suppose I will say that a person who is 50-year-old, so that my suggestion would not be applicable for that person. But the person who is 28, 24, or 17-year-old, that person would be maybe much have their own needs and everything. So I would say is that first just look at your plate and see how much big piece of steak you're having and how much vegetable you're having, and start comparing it, and maybe from that you can have the priorities set and maybe start from that. It would be might be easy for you, for your pocket, and for your kitchen too. So I don't want to be like, fill out all the lentils and all the vegetable on your fridge, and you was like, oh, David and Maria talk about it, so now we are following it. So we don't want any complaints or a comment. So again,
right.
just look at your affordability, your price, your health, and be happy about it, and
Mm,
again enjoy your food. So
mm,
it has to be enjoyable, not to be forced by it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. That is great advice. Finally, Maria, what is next for you?
I mean, right now, as you can see, I work with social media, I work with communications, I am talking with the experts and everything, creating consumer segmentation. So, the first, there was a one of question you arise that how you can transform to the realistic, like grocery
Mm,
shopping and
mm,
everything. I think so. This is something also comes into our team and project. Now we are gonna use these products and communication framing which we have seen in social media and segmentation. We are going to put in a virtual reality lab. We have a cube lab, so we are gonna have a virtual reality experiments and everything. So we are thinking about trying different communications, let them try the cake egg replacer, so that they can see what they have experiences, what are they feeling when they try to buy it,
Mm,
what their like expressions, what are their comment. So I am very excited about that. So let's
mm,
see how much they like these products and communication. But again, it's going to be a very realistic, from academia to practical to more managerial. So
mm.
I'm really loving that how my project is transforming from one place to another. So I'm very excited about that.
Wonderful. Maria, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your work. We wish you all the very best as you complete your PhD and continue research into the future of food.
That's my pleasure, and I hope I will do it, and I will love it. Again, thank you so much for inviting me. And again, if from our discussion, if anyone maybe have a certain thoughts about it, transitions and everything, I think so. Our both works will be done here, and we will be happy with sleeping. Maybe try some have a bowl of lentils right now after this conversation that we have transformed some person to sustainability. So
Wonderful.
let's see how it will goes, but I am sure. And thank you so much for inviting. It's such a nice to talk with you on this insight. It's also give me more insight to work on it more.